Yo, what's up guys? Yeah, pokeaim here with another Pokemon Sword and Shield Moveset video guide on how to use Orbeetle. I actually really like Orbeetle. I love that it has base 120 special defense and base 110 defense. Unfortunately, it has a low HP stat at base 60, but it has a really fast speed stat, one that you wouldn't really expect from a Pokemon that's this bulky. But base 90 is a fantastic speed tier in Pokemon Sword and Shield just because a lot of Pokemon are slower. Like, we have these really weird... Basically, this is the slowest we've had a metagame since like Gen 4, Gen 5, where Pokemon are not like ridiculous at base 110, 120, 130, 140, like the majority of them, right? Like base 100 is considered fast this generation, which is crazy. Obviously, you have, Pokemon that go above that, Dragapult, Cinderace, Selgor, there's more to name, Gengar. But this is still a pretty fast speed tier, especially when you think about the fact that Orbeetle is RU right now. So it has a pretty vast move pool, I would say, in terms of what it can do. Not necessarily coverage, but what it can do with, well, you'll see what I mean. But the first set we have is, I think, one of its best things as a sticky webber, right? I think its niche as a sticky webber is the fact that it can also provide dual screens. Being very fast, it can get up both light screen and reflect. We have the light clay, and light clay allows us to have the maximum turns of light screen and reflect, which is 8. Sticky web, of course, if you guys don't know what sticky web is, you get it up and it lowers the speed of your opponent as long as they touch the ground by one stage. And then Magic Coat is there, and Magic Coat gives you the option to block taunt. You can bounce back Stealth Rock. It bounces back taunt, bounces back Stealth Rock, hazards in general, things like that. So it allows Orbeetle to perform the way it's supposed to, right? Get up Sticky Web, get up its dual screens, and really just support your build, right? And with this type of set, you definitely want setup Pokemon. I'm talking like Shell Smash, Barbarical could work, Calm Mind, Alcremie, Swords Dance, Pangoro, No Retreat Phalanx, Belly Drum Ice Cube. Those are all great options to go with it because they're all Pokemon that appreciate a dual screen support. Basically anything that gets set up, right? Anything that gets set up, like Nasty Plot, Salazzle, Calm Mind, Sigilyph, anything that gets set up really does appreciate the extra bulk that they get from the light screen and reflect. However, it does have other options if you want to use it as a sticky webber that's not as passive. The other option is either running heavy duty boots or focus sash. Now, what heavy duty boots allows you to do is come in multiple times on potential defoggers and potentially get in the sticky web again, right? Heavy duty boots is basically there to last, so you don't care about the hazards that your opponent gets up, specifically the Stealth Rock. Those are the only ones that, well, they're all affecting you, even though Orbeetle looks like it's levitating, but you don't care about the Stealth Rock too much, or anything like that, and basically you can U-turn around with it. However, there is the option here of running Psychic as well, so this set is Sticky Web, U-turn, and either Psychic or Recover, and depending on if you decide to run Recover, you don't have to run a Timid nature, you can run a Jolly nature, but Psychic will give you an option of actually hitting fighting types like Beware. And then the last move is Hypnosis. Hypnosis is only 60% accurate, but it's still a really nice way of threatening defoggers, especially if you know they're going to defog. And obviously heavy duty boots does provide that longevity, whereas a focus sash is also the other option if you just want to use it as an anti-lead. But focus sash will give you basically a second chance at landing hypnosis, and by that I mean you're not going to die in one hit guaranteed because of that focus sash, unless it's like a rock blast from like a bandit or offensive Gigalith or something like that. But yeah, it's honestly up to you. Frisk is the ability. You don't need Swarm because you're not running any bug moves, and figuring out what item your opponent's running, though a lot of the times it's pretty easy to tell, I feel, because certain Pokemon run certain items, and obviously you'll see like Leftovers, you'll see Rocky Helmet, you already know like a lot of spinners run heavy duty boots, but that's nice for just getting known. And I think in Draft League specifically, if you're playing in Draft League, this is great because in Draft League items are not as common. Like, what your opponent's running is a lot harder to determine in Draft League than it is in other things, just because Draft Leagues are based on your team and you counter team your opponent. So either way, there's the option here. I think one thing to keep in mind is that Gmax Orbeetle does set Gravity, and even though I'm not going to be covering a double set, that's pretty cool when combined with something like Hypnosis. So after the Gmax ends, and another thing is it does have the ability to telepathy. So if you set Gravity, which makes basically moves more accurate, and also like flying types and levitators touch the ground, you can hit them with Earthquake. It's pretty cool because if you have a teammate that also goes for Earthquake, where you're on the field, telepathy, your ability prevents damage on you. So that's a pretty cool thing. So I could see like a Gmax Orbeetle running Hypnosis as well. Of course, you have to wait your 3 turns before you can do that because you have to Gmax for 3 turns. But the next set we have is taking advantage of its speed tier and its nice offensive move pool. We have Calm Mind, Psyshock, Recover, and Bug Buzz. It is an offensive Orbeetle, but I still think max HP is necessary. I think one of the big things about Orbeetle is, again, its speed tier in the tier itself, being faster than Pokemon like Passimian and base 80s. Speed time and Rose Rate is actually the main reason why we are running max speed on almost, if not all, the sets. Rose Rate is a giant threat in the tier that we're covering, so it just helps us deal with that. Swarm can be used on this one since you do have a Bug Buzz, so boosting your Bug Buzz. And from there, it's just Psyshock hits Rose Rate harder, and other Calm Mind users that allow you to do more damage to potential opposing Calm Mind setter. Whereas Bug Buzz is your way of dealing with the Dark types, which would otherwise be immune to your Psyshock. And then Recover is great, giving you that reliable recovery outside of the leftovers recovery as well. So using it as a potential sweeper. Obviously, be careful. This thing does not deal with Steel types very well, at least on this set in particular. So in terms of teammates, you want Pokemon that can deal with that, whether it be bulky waters like Vaporeon that can pivot into Steel types and can threaten them with Scald and can Wish Pass, or offensive Pokemon like Hitmonlee and Passimian, which can threaten them with super effective moves. Those are all great teammates too. Again, when you want to deal with Orbeetle, Rock type moves are good, Dark type moves are good. Pangoro is a pretty good check too, depending on some things. The next set we have is also using a Calm Mind set, but it's taking advantage of Orbeetle's very, very vast move pool in terms of like setup, right? It has Calm Mind, as Iron Defense. It also has Baton Pass, by the way. I'm not going to mention Baton Pass on this because the metagame I'm playing, it's not allowed necessarily, but it can definitely work in Battle Spot Singles or Draft League if Baton Pass is allowed in itself. But and what Baton Pass does is if you set up stats, you can pass them to another teammate. But right here we have mono stored power, and if you guys don't know the way stored power works, basically the more boost you have, the stronger it is. It's plus 20 for each of the user stat boosts, so it becomes incredibly powerful. You have Iron Defense, that way you can't be beaten on the physical side. Even being able to, like, when you're plus 6, even moves like Knockoff aren't going to be doing too much, but do be warned, Pangoro does run Darkest Lariat, so be very, very careful about that because it doesn't care about your stats. So be very careful about that. But you shouldn't be setting up with Orbeetle anyway if Pangoro is around because this thing cannot touch it anyway. But we have Calm Mind to boost your special attack and special defense, Recover for that recovery, and then Stored Power is our main offensive option. Good teammates for this are Toxic Spike users, being able to wear down Dark types with that. Rose Rate is a great one, so is Quillfish potentially. Fighting types are nice too because you deal with opposing Dark types better. You can even use a Dark type in a fighting type. Like, for example, you don't want to get swept by this set, use your own Pangoro. Phalanx can work too. Passimian is a really good one. But yeah, mono attacking Orbeetle, probably one of the most fun to use. I've used it several times. I've actually used it in UU as well, even though Obstagoon is around up there. The next set we have is still using a stored power set, but this one is more so trying to get Orbeetle faster. And we have Weakness Policy as well. So the set is Stored Power, Iron Defense, Recover, and Agility with Weakness Policy. So you Iron Defense up, that way you can take the hit, a super effective hit, maybe like a U-turn or something from Scarf Passimian. You pop your Weakness Policy, your Stored Power is even stronger there. You Agility up, that way you're faster than Choice Scarf Pokemon, that's the big thing as well. And from here, you should be Timid Nature on this one as well. Like the last, but from here you potentially go for a sweep, right? You don't have Calm Mind, so you don't take special hits as well, but Orbeetle has a naturally great base 120 special defense stat, and using that agility to not only boost your stored power, but like I said, being faster than other Choice Scarf users, right? After agility, you're faster than the entire tier. That's basically it, right? You're faster than the entire tier. So, like easily too. So using it as a stored power super, and once again, you want to make sure that Dark types are gone before you actually try and use this set. Next up, we have a Choice set. So this can work either Choice Specs or Choice Scarf. And again, Orbeetle has a base 80 special attack stat. Not the best necessarily, but Bug and Psychic are pretty good coverage besides like Steel types. So Psychic allows you to hit those fighting types and basically a lot bulky waters and things like that. Bug Bugs can do the same, but except for hitting fighting types, you're actually hitting dark types with that. Energy Ball can give you a nice neutral move versus a Pokemon like Steelix, which is a pretty decent check to Orbeetle, depending on the Steelix set. And can also just give you nice versus those ground types. And then you can either run U-Turn or Trick. Trick can help you cripple your opponent, whereas U-Turn will give you momentum with Orbeetle and help you get in something else. For example, you U-Turn as they go out into Scavalier, which is a pretty good check to Orbeetle, and then you bring out maybe a fire type to deal with that, right? So that's just like what U-Turns there. You do have Swarm as well on this one too, just because when you get lower, you know, Swarm boosting your Bug Buzz even more. Definitely worth. But this can be either Choice Specs or Choice Scarf. I think if you're running Choice Scarf, I'm not sure because like U-Turn and Trick are both really good. But I guess the niche about Choice Scarf is that you're faster than Choice Scarf Passimian, which is pretty common. And you're able to threaten them with a Psychic. So that's a really nice thing about Orbeetle. And the last set is kind of like using Iron Defense plus Body Press. Body Press is basically the only move that Orbeetle has in its move pool that actually allows it to deal with Steel types. A super effective hit versus Steel types. Being able to potentially beat like Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Body Press, Iron Defense, Steelix, I think is pretty cool because you resist all of its moves. And Iron Defense actually with 16 defense EVs, when you get to +2 with that, you actually do 94% minimum to Pangoro, so you're knocking that boy out with Stealth Rock with Body Press. So that gives you a nice little way of dealing with that too. But it gives this thing a way of dealing with those Steel types as well. Psychic is there, so you can still hit those fighting types for super effective damage, as well as Rose Raid, and then you have Recover for the longevity. So it's not necessarily using it to sweep, but using it to deal with Pokemon that it normally would not be able to deal with. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the Pokemon Showdown Live that I'll be showing later today where I feature Orbeetle. And hope you guys learned something. So I'll see you guys tomorrow with another Pokemon. We're almost done. Goodbye, my friends.